how history repeats itself. There's actually a formula. It's physics, and it has to do with consciousness. If consciousness never grows up, and it's always the same, and it's always pretty dark, you realize that there's a tendency for that train we're on to go in a circle. Oh, over and over. That means war repeats itself. Everything else repeats itself that could, and we've been on that track for eons. And here's the other thing about this shift. We're no longer repeating history. We're on a siding now. That track is now on a siding. We've never been there before. How does it feel to you?
Once again, my dear friends, Monika and Lee are back to enlighten us once, twice, three times a lady. They're just, the wisdom goes beyond the words in this experience. And I just want to just be grateful and let everyone know I'm very grateful that you're here today. Welcome back, guys. It's so exciting.
We're here again, folks.
Yeah, it's such a joy to be with you, San Qing. My heart just opens and blossoms and blooms every time we get together.
It's fun to meet a joyful sage, if you can even call yourself that. But we love it.
Well, I'm very much in love with you guys, so thank you. And it goes back at you.
Thank you.
Well, let's get right down with the get down. You guys are always on the pulse. Kryon has insight to everything and has incredible abilities to share what is coming, what is now, what is really happening in the world. Where is everything going currently?
I don't know how many people watched the last show. We tend to repeat ourselves because the information is so great. And it's not doom and gloom. That I would tend to be repetitive, but I'll just say it again and all that this particular time we're in has been predicted. So the first thing we want everybody to know is if it's been predicted, that means it's not a surprise. It's not a shock. And everybody would say, you mean this time of craziness? Actually, they knew it was coming. Yep, they did. Yep, they did. Kryon, when he first came in 36 years ago, said, I'm here for a certain reason. And then as time went on, we found the reason was this shift we're in, which, by the way, has a timeline for it. And the timeline for this reboot, you might say, the specific time where humanity has the opportunity to awaken, which predicted by the ancients and all, has this area, this window of time, which just happens to be astrology and astronomy, and it's called the precession of the equinoxes. It's 36 years, and it goes from 1994 to I think 2030. That was a predicted crazy time. Anybody relate to that? Because we're in it, everyone. And sure enough, the very things that Kryon talked about are in front of us and are happening. And everybody's just going a little nuts because they didn't expect it, even though it was predicted and even though we've been talking about it. So what is that? Well, first of all, Kryon said there'll be a time when we start turning on the light. There's like layers of things that are happening. Turning on the light. Now, that means an awareness of higher consciousness. Now, we talked to the teacher today, who is actually the host of this show, and he knows all about higher consciousness. So you think about a time when there's higher consciousness. What happens when you turn on the light? And that is the dirt shows. And it shows it's ugly, and it shows more than it ever has before, even though it's always been there. So right away, you're looking at ugly stuff. How does it make you feel? Well, not very good. But if you knew it was targeted, it was going to arrive, it was predicted, and here you are, I hope that's a little solace to some of you who had thought it was an accident. You're suddenly a victim of the planet. You don't know what's going on. It doesn't feel good. Now you know that there not only was planned by us and that it was targeted by the ancients, but that you're in it. Maybe there's a reason. Oh, there's another layer. There's many layers, I would say, of awareness of this time we are in. Here's the other layer. Are you aware that time repeats itself? It does. Greg Braden wrote a book, I think it was in 2010, where he talked about that very thing called fractal time. And he talked about how history repeats itself. There's actually a formula. It's physics, and it has to do with consciousness. If consciousness never grows up and it's always the same and it's always pretty dark, you realize that there's a tendency for that train we're on to go in a circle. Oh, over and over. That means war repeats itself. Everything else repeats itself that could. And we've been on that track for eons. And here's the other thing about this shift. We're no longer repeating history. We're on a siding now. That track is now on a siding. We've never been there before. How does it feel to you? Are you uncomfortable with it? Most are. And the reason is because of this is new. There's another layer. Dimensionality. How many of you feel you're in another dimension or broaching it? Whatever that means to you. In other words, reality is just not what it used to be. And if your answer is, yeah, that's me, that is actually also happening, because I'd love to talk to you about this. So there is a relationship between consciousness and dimensionality. And the higher the consciousness that you attain, the difference, the dimension, the reality, the dimension that comes with that. So some of you are actually broaching another kind of a dimension where others are not. So that's a third layer. And there's a fourth and a fifth and a sixth that might start to explain what's going on right now. But the big one that I tell everybody is that this is a reboot for humanity's consciousness. It is not the end of the world. It's not the doom and gloom. It's actually the opportunity to start cleaning up the act of human nature, all the things that we now are looking at that we're saying, this is awful. You realize that in your grandfather's world or your great-grandfather's world, it was all there, but it was simply accepted, and nobody did anything about it. You just lived it. And those were the wars and actually my grandfather's, I can remember my dad told me that my grandfather said that if you can't do anything about it, just ignore it. That's a very old energy idea. And that's what they did. And not today. I don't want to occupy this, but there's also what's another layer on it, and it has to do with the young people. I'm going to stop there and let you ask questions and continue, but it keeps going.
I think that's a brilliant insight for everyone to take notice of what their environment is really creating in their experience. And I mean, you brought up an incredible point. I find that a lot of people are avoiding their shadow, their darkness, whatever, not recognizing that yin and yang symbiotic dance is from the same stream. It's only separated due to your perception of reality. And how do people move in to understanding that you say tomato, I say tomato, and truly, I feel like this is where people get their highs and lows, where they program themselves to high dopamine, low serotonin, and then all of a sudden they're not able to cope with their reality, because if it doesn't continually add up to a high experience and an elated arousal, then they must be bad. They must be deficient. They must be insecure. They must be broken, because they're moving away from that dark aspect. It's actually just from a Taoist yin and yang. What do you guys think about this idea that people have become disappointed within that spiritual growth aspect because they want to just stay in the light and everything must be positive? They can't immerse themselves into things that are happening through you, not to you.
That's a really profound statement. And again, when you start doing spiritual work on yourself and you start awakening to bigger truths, and sometimes, I mean, you even have that phrase when people have that spiritual ecstasy where you reach this deep connection that blows you wide open, and then you come down from that. That's why they call it a mountaintop experience. often when you have this spiritual event that brings you up to that point. And when you come down from the mountain, this is where Kryon is really telling us that you bring that down, you bring that with you. So it's about having that perspective and you bring it with you. And then when you have that higher perspective and you're out of fear and worry, you then are able to navigate those other situations. I really love the story of when the masters walked the planet. Kryon even said that even they had self-doubt. This becomes that part of duality where and I love your words where you say it's the yin and the yang. It's those two opposites that push and pull energy. And Lee, even on a personal note, says that this is something we work on every day. You don't just paste it upon yourself and then it's there all the time. I think every day we need to step into our divinity and claim it on a daily basis. And again, there's that expectation that when you have this amazing experience, it feels like such a low when you're not on that cloud nine, when you're not on that mountaintop. Really interesting side topic that's kind of related, which is why I bring it up, is when people have gone through what they call a near-death experience. Now, many of them report this incredible sense of love. Almost all of them just really have this expansiveness and this feeling of just unconditional love. And then when they're brought back into their bodies, it's interesting what happens. And I want to bring up a gentleman's name by the name of Dr. Zachary Bush, who has worked a lot in the hospice. And he's had many people that have passed away and many that he has resuscitated and brought back from that state where you could clinically say they have died. And all of them are angry. Why did you bring me back? And it's because they've touched that side of the other part of the veil, which we're actually entangled with. We're just holding it into a lower density form of this human body. But they've kind of, it's like the curtain's been pulled across and now you see where home really is, where you emanated from and where you return to. And then you've had a peek of that and then you're brought back into this body and they don't want that. So that's that same experience, isn't it? Where you've had this amazing experience and then now you have to, I have to face duality. I have to do my own grocery shopping. I have to cook my own meals. What the hell is this? I don't want to be part of any of this stuff. And it's that same saying, isn't it? You become spiritual, you keep climbing stairs and carrying buckets of water because that's part of the journey. So we're exposed to it. Then I remember recently, because we do a weekly program. Every Wednesday we have Wednesdays with Kryon. And so we have members that will send in questions to us. And one of them was asking, because we shared this information about people that go across and then they come back and why did you bring me back? And so one of the questions was asking about, well, if, you know, we're all going back to that beautiful love source, why are we here? You know, why do we choose to reincarnate again and again? When you go back and you have that bliss and then you come back, why are we reincarnating? That's almost like asking, what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? And part of the explanation that Kryon tries to give us, and again, we are limited by a ceiling of what we have, of our intelligence able to perceive higher than what we're limited at. So even the information I'm sharing now has limits on it. because even we can't fully understand the full depth of the multidimensional state, that Kryon, that place that is being taught to us. But essentially, we're here as a test of consciousness as a collective. What will humanity do when it's given the seeds of divinity? It's taught core spiritual truths by those from the stars who gave you that divinity. And when those teachers step aside to let free choice determine what it's going to do, will that free choice of humans, collective, discover that inside of them is the piece of the Creator? I call it the love test. What will we choose in our love test? What will that be? And the reason it's hidden from us in this kind of veil, that's the description, is that the Creator is biased in love. So if you're going to have a love test, it has to be within a parameters that you're not aware of who you truly are. And can you have that awareness to discover it? So I know I've probably gone off topic on a lot of different things and opened many different subjects, but hopefully I answered the question you were asking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the wisdom is just so potent. And, you know, you're bringing up such good points that, you know, real self-realization within Taoist alchemy, it's meeting the power, the most valuable commodity you have, which is your attention in this material state. But once you meet the attention with intention, you form what we call Shen Gong, which is spirit power, and evokes your spirit immortality within the material world. We call it immortality crystallized in the material. This is where you can form and create things that would normally be a non-starter or not a possibility within anyone's fabric of reality, because they haven't actualized themselves. It's like a Shazam actualization. And I really believe that that path is the path that, you know, Kryon is talking about. And of course, you are speaking on levels well beyond perception, but within that alchemy path, you can materialize things that would be, you know, basically a fantasy in someone's mind. This all is determined on what is your threshold of realization. Or shout out to Tom Campbell, what's your entropy level? Where does it start or end? And is it a low or a high entropy will be determinative of what you're really going to experience. I personally put about a zero limit on potential, and then all of a sudden crazy sensory perception things take place. And I think the new generation, as you put it, an NDE and OBE, these terms that, you know, I think Bob Monroe coined years ago, astral projection is formally what we refer to as Shen Gong. And so when you can actualize it, holy moly, all the things that Kryon is speaking of is happening. And I can't even imagine what's the real potential for the human or mankind with this type of teaching that Kryon's putting out. I mean, there's no limit.
Let's put some of those in Western language, because all of that is understandable. I understand exactly what you're talking about. In other words, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. You know, it emphasizes how the ancients gave us this in such a package that we could work with. And now it sounds esoteric, it sounds unachievable, and it's not all of that understandable. You think you've got to be study it in order to do it. Let me put it in another way. Our consciousness, whatever you call that, even Plato couldn't identify what that word means. Our consciousness, our mind is incredibly powerful. And it then changes our perception when it starts to then manifest these very areas that you're talking about. Let me give you an example in a very simple Western way. It was Louise Hay oh man, it has to be 40 years ago now. I don't know, when she introduced a concept in her first book, which she wrote and published on a kitchen table, I think, in the old days, called You Can Heal Your Life. And the premise of that was that you can create what you think, that your consciousness actually changed your perception in your body of what was possible. Now, that met with not just criticism, but it was heresy for the time. In fact, I asked her what was the hardest thing about the book that you had to get through, and she said, "You mean the death threats?" She received death threats. The idea that you can think something that then would change the reality for you was way beyond anything anybody was talking about then. And it was not being put into perspective of perhaps what you teach and have just expressed. It was a whole different idea, but it's an ancient idea. So where I'm going with this is that today, when you talk about duality, when you talk about the perception of highs and lows, when you talk about any of these kinds of things, you have to say, where is the middle of those highs and lows? Now, for me, I've gone from the middle being here. You think of it as a wave. This is the mountaintop experience. This is, oh my, this is nirvana. Down here is depression. And we cycle often between them. Now, what I want to tell you is, do you believe it's possible for that median, that middle thing, to move up? And the answer is, yeah. That is perception. Let's say you find out that this is real, that you can literally change your thinking, and suddenly the reality around you starts to work. I mean, you've alchemized somehow your reality. You've changed it. So that median point of the highs and lows has gotten here. So you no longer go down here, you go here. And the higher your perception of what you think you can do is up here, goes here. Pretty soon your highs and lows get lower and lower. The swing becomes less. I've gone through those. It takes me a day to recover. That's all. It used to take me weeks to recover. That is the power of your consciousness to perceive and intend for a consciousness shift, a dimensional shift for you. And that is because we can do it. We really can do it. Anybody can do it. And you don't have to study for years. I don't want to say anything that's not correct, but that's the change we are seeing in energy today. It is that very change. The even after Louise passed, the name of the conference that she continued to have put on by those who remained in her company was called the I Can Do It Conference. So this was the main thrust of a whole new idea. What do you perceive is possible for you? What do you perceive, for instance, in your own body? Can you live longer by desire? Can you heal through your own consciousness and a higher vibration? Can you talk to that which is your cellular structure or your what they call innate in your body? And most people will say that's for the masters. I disagree. We've been doing it for years. This is what we teach. This is the new energy. So it is really tied into intent and perception.
Oh, wow. You know, I mean, you, holy moly, what an empowering moment for the audience and for me also. I'm just getting high on the energy you guys are putting out. So thank you guys and Kryon for my blissed out state. I got a little doze there. This is like really the answer for everyone. I mean, I absolutely attribute my own path instantly actualized from that. I always remind people there may be a million ways up the mountain, but now is your moment. what is it? Carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment, make it realized. And I feel that so many more people are open to not just the idea, but actually emanating it, embodying what you just shared with us, Lee, which was just holy moly, it's now. Make it now. Let it be. Let the past, the future, and the present meld together and create whatever it is that you choose to. I feel the only missing link is, okay, there's an empowerment moment there. The messaging is so potent that anyone listening to this is going to feel the messaging from you guys, from Kryon, that this is my moment to actualize. Then how do they navigate their way through a peak where you and I, you spoke on it just a few moments ago. There's a peak and then there's a fall, which is part of the ebb and flow of that symbiotic dance between yin and yang, the dualistic experience. It's all coming from a stream of perfection, but most people are still attempting to create their Sherlock to their Watson, recognizing that the labyrinth of their mind is actually really their heart, and their heart is opened.
There again, so many layers to this. Let me give you one. Sorry, I'm taking time away from Monika here too. She got so much to say about these things, but one is we make some interesting assumptions along the way about the Creator who loves us, which many who call God. And here's the assumption: the Creator's only with us when we feel good. You know, when you start slipping, and we all do, it's the yin and yang. Life is this way. It goes like this. It goes that way. And so we feel this, that as soon as you start slipping, God left you, and now you're on your own. Woe is me, I'm on my own. Woe is me, I hope I recover. Woe is me, oh, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. Oh, there's God again. What if that was wrong? What if your divinity is with you 24/7? When I start slipping into a point where I'm not, I would say, thinking as high as I used to, and it happens all the time. So it's the yin and yang, as you say. I say to spirit, I can feel it. I can feel that I'm just not with it as much. Please be with me and help me over this. Let's make the bottom a little different this way. Show me what I should do. Tell me what I don't know. And I have a dialogue with spirit who never left me while I'm going there. And so when you ask, what do you do? What do you do about the slipping from the high? You address it. You say to spirit, look, I don't feel good. Help me. And in that, you realize you're never alone, and that there are natural highs and lows. And then quite often the message I get from Kryon is let it go. In other words, it's part of the process. For you to be who you are, you must be cyclical. There is a vibration that is needed. There is a yin and yang that is normal and is needed. You have to experience some of these things to appreciate the others. And then you start looking at what I will call the maturity of a higher consciousness, understanding what's okay and not then fearing it when you don't feel high.
I think the other part of what Kryon has consistently said is one of the most difficult things for us to do is to sit and be loved. We often have these awakening experience and we can get so inspired by what the masters of the planet have been able to do, and there are so many individuals who have the ability to manipulate physics, create alchemy, change things around them. And yet, the hardest thing is can you sit and be loved? There is nothing more to do or be other than sit and be loved. And for years, Kryon has given that phrase over and over and over. And often we want to just kind of bypass the sit and be loved. We want to be in the action, the doing part, the creation part. But again, when I think of the teachings from Kryon about our galactic parents, if you will, those that came with intervention to give us divinity, and all over the planet there's many indigenous that recognize the Pleiadians as the one that came to our planet to give us creation. And Kryon has also talked about that galactic family. They have been through what we are going through now as humanity and have been around for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. So they've been able to meld that divine consciousness with their corporeal bodies. And so they have this ability to sit and be loved. But it's so simple that we often bypass it, or we ignore it, or we move on to other things. But if we can always be in a place where we ask, what would love do in this situation? What would love do in this moment? And whatever situation, whether it's something you're applying to yourself personally, so for example, if you've got a health challenge, then it's you asking you the question, what would love do? How would you love yourself even more through your health challenge? Or perhaps you have a neighbor that's really irritating you. And again, we ask that question, what would love do? Would love seek to try and understand why that neighbor is going through those things that irritate you? Is there another story there or another perspective I'm not looking at? Is there something I can do in action of love to use that impulse of love as to how I might interact with that person? Would that make a difference? So we always can look at any situation. I don't like the president in my country, or I don't like what's happening in this situation. What would love do? What would love really do in that situation? If I can't control the neighbor, or if I can't control the president, what can I control? Perhaps I can control the compassionate action that I send to that person. And perhaps if there's enough of us who are focusing on what would love do, pretty soon we start interacting with each other from the basis of that impulse of love. And that is what's beginning to happen. And we're beginning to see it more and more. And when you've had those individuals that come to you from that place of love, it makes you want to do better. It makes you want to do more. It uplifts everybody. It has this kind of rippling effect where it ripples out and it touches people in ways that you don't even think of.
Wow. My heart is blossoming with that, and I can feel everything that you're saying. It's so powerful. And I don't know, the humility of this wisdom is just, it's really like a sledgehammer when it comes to just complete surrender. I mean, you just feel it from head to toe, and your heart becomes more and more softened and open to, as you said, this love that is a universal language. And I mean, as comedy would take us, I would lead us into a prophet from a more ancient time that pondered the question, what is love? Or is this love that I'm feeling? Is this love that I'm looking for? Whitesnake really got it down back in the 80s. Because, I mean, you can't get any more deeper than that. And you feel that song. I literally, honestly play that song at least 20 times a day, because there is a moment in history, just as little and as recent as that, where there is just this, all inhibitions are just dissolved, and people just want to, can't we all just get along? Can't we all just sing love ballads? Can't we all just be in love? Can't we all just be free? And I think that sort of bled from the 60s into the 70s into the 80s. And I feel like right now, more than ever, the wisdom teaching of you guys with Kryon at the driving wheel, that this is so critical for people to remember their sentience and their empathy is their superpower.
It really is their superpower. I absolutely agree. And I love that you brought up music, because, you know, music is a passion for Lee and I. He was a recording audio engineer in his own studio. He knows what it's like to be in the middle of orchestras playing and watching arrangers channel in the moment to create the music. And music is one of those things that Kryon says comes to us across the veil unfiltered. It's just like this raw, direct creator energy blasting into us. And interestingly enough, this is kind of a side topic, but we have some dear friends of ours that live and breathe music. And one of the things they were sharing with us is that when they've seen those with Alzheimer's, they've discovered that when they play a piece of music to that individual, where it's a music that they personally connect to and love, somehow through those headphones and that experience, it's almost like they have been a wilting flower put into water and they become reanimated and alive again. And one of the examples they showed was this beautiful, beautiful woman who used to be a ballet dancer in Swan Lake was one of the roles she played in. And you physically see her in the chair, kind of all just holding it together and just existing. And when they put on the headphones and they start playing the Swan Lake solo, she starts to change her posture. She starts to emulate the moves of what she was doing. And it's almost exactly that muscle memory of when she was dancing and performing. So music has this incredible ability to go deep into our core and bypass all of those filters of logic that try and stop us from rationalizing what we're experiencing and going through. We're just in the moment of feeling it. So I think you're right, San Qing. Imagine if everyone was to wake up playing that favorite bit of music that they love in the kitchen as they're having breakfast. This would, I think, make a huge difference. And it's part of when Kryon says we're not here, our name is sung in light. There is a continuous music being broadcast of the love song from the Creator. And I think we capture it in glimpses as we have these musical experiences. And then, you know, the other thing that Kryon has said, if you look at music, it has evolved. We go through these cycles of evolution of music because it's matching the evolution of our experience as we get to embody more and more of our soul energy. So I've stolen a lot of the thunder here talking about music, which happens to be Lee's other passionate subject, Lee, because you worked in the studio.
I'm just relating and laughing when he was saying, yeah, I play Whitesnake and all of this. It's when I say to the people around me, man, my favorite music is I love those songs from the Doobie Brothers. And they say, who is that? And you realize it's gone. It's just, for the generation today, they've got their own, and they should. But it doesn't always stay. It's just part of becoming ancient, I think.
Yeah, but Lee, you've had so many musical experiences.
I got to
in
see
the
channeling
studio.
in my studio, and I got to see it the first time ever that I even realized what it was, and it was from composers, the ultimate creators of music and art, whether it's whatever it is. That's channeling. It truly is, and Kryon has said this. But I saw in my studio, well. When you're doing movies, you have things like called cues, and they are short episodes of music that happen underneath scenes. That's changed over the years to be longer and things like that. But at one point in time, you get together, the orchestra's there, and you record cues. And we were in this one thing. I think we were doing, I did the score for The Usual Suspect back then. And there was one scene that that they forgot. They actually forgot it needed music. And we were recording, and in came the message, the messenger from Los Angeles, and he was carrying a videotape. And he said, you got to score this, you got to score this. So that when the musicians took a break and the orchestra took a break, in came that the composer played the tape. And I don't think it was longer than maybe 40 seconds, 50 seconds or something. And it was a love scene. Or maybe it's not a love scene. It was a very touching part of that movie. And I watched him scribble like crazy. And then they handed it to the copyist, because if you know orchestra, not everybody plays in concert key, and has to have their own ledger. So they came back from break, which is only 10 minutes. That's all they get is a break, the union break. And in comes the orchestra. They put the music in front of them. They played the tape, and it rolled. And I was just flabbergasted with what I heard. This guy had done this almost impossible thing, and he had scored this beautiful, heartfelt music with the strings and all, like they put on their tort mutes, which is a whole different sound, and they played this thing, and it made you weep. It was so beautiful. He did that in 10 minutes. And that's not just talent. He channeled it. And that's when I realized there's something going on with consciousness that is a whole lot more than just brain power. So I got to see that. Sorry for the length of that, but it's a good story. And I got to see it way in advance of Kryon being in my life.
I mean, you guys are speaking on stuff that just still blows my mind, having many clicks like you in this space for so long. And it really, it's like the first time I ever saw your face. I'm like, I get that giddy. My wife is like, you're acting like you've never ever done this before. Yes, it's just I'm childlike, and yes, every time I look at my wife, I fall more in love with her, because it's a childlike state. I get giddy, I get butterflies. I'm in lust. I'm in love for her. Every sense of the word, I want to breathe her in, and that's how I feel about my kids. And I honestly believe that message is so potent for everybody, just to slow down, live longer, take a deep breath, and just put everything on pause, let the tape build up, let the video machine dissolve, and just realize that this is the moment you need to be completely dive into, is this now moment. And the ancestry and the way that you guys are speaking all this wisdom, and Kryon just has forever been giving you these most profound messages that honestly changed the lives of, in my opinion, millions of people. And just you guys in the act of being yourself, it's just such a beautiful expression of where we're going within humanity's main vein of realizing this is all we need, is this love, unconditional love and acceptance of each other.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one is to have unconditional love and acceptance of yourself. It really, we keep saying that. I'm sure there's many spiritual teachers that talk about, that self-worth, but it really starts with that, to like fall in love with yourself. And I'm still learning and mastering the art of falling in love with Monika. I often think, thank God I was born in Australia, where we actually we make fun of a lot of things. That's part of our culture in humor, to be on the funny side of life and not take ourselves so seriously. So, you have those moments where you can laugh at yourself. But I think it's also important to laugh with yourself, so that you're carrying yourself on the journey of you. I mean, your life is so important. Every person that's on the planet, we incarnated knowing we would be here in the most extraordinary time of shift and change. And for many of us, particularly Lee's generation and those seniors, there was a real possibility that we wouldn't get to this point, because, again, we have free choice as to what we will decide. And there was a period in time where there were so many nuclear weapons armed at each other that if any of those buttons were pushed and got released, we would probably not be sitting here right now having this kind of conversation. That was a very real potential. And yet, against all odds, we have moved past that and stepped onto a pathway of energy that we set up for ourselves in advance, to take the journey of moving into graduate ascension status. What does that mean? Collectively, we have decided that oneness, a togetherness, is the mission and the goal of where we want to get to. And so we've begun that journey, but we're really at that beginning stages of it. I love that Lee talked about the precession of the equinoxes and this foretold time. That precession of the equinoxes, it's a 26,000 year cycle. And the Mayan culture, they actually developed what they call a long count calendar system. And the long count represented approximately 5,125 years. And in their understanding of the calendar work, each one of those long count calendars, it represented the birth or the creation of a universe. And then when it finished, that cycle ended, and then you would birth a new cycle. And so the birthing of the cycle, where we finished at 2012, it's funny how Hollywood took the end of the Mayan long count of 2012 to be the end of the world. Boom, boom, boom. But really, it was about the end of an old consciousness. And then they actually had the next calendar cycle ready to go. What's this next 5,000 year long count calendar looks like? Well, according to their prophecies, if we made it past 2012, we would have the potential to move into the highest consciousness that the planet has ever seen. And I think that's the really exciting part. We're still in that transition, that shift. If you think about anything that you've had in your life, if you've ever had something where you've had some habits that you've wanted to change, just let me throw one out there. For example, if you used to be a smoker and you wanted to quit smoking and you had that transition, for many, it didn't happen overnight. It was steps, and you move through it. Now, yes, there's some that can do the cold turkey. That's it, never having another cigarette, and you move through it. But even for them, there's often like withdrawal symptoms, and it takes some time to recalibrate to the new. And so even though we have chosen, we are on this path of graduate ascension status, there are still those recalibration points to move through. And all the chaos that we see around us on the planet and the doom and gloomers that really want to throw at you fear-based scenarios and doom-based scenarios is just part of what I call the spin cycle as we are going through the recalibration. I have a very good astrologer friend who, when she talks about these things as we're moving through astrology, she will talk about it. We're just in the washing machine at the spin cycle. You know, we're in the getting the dirt out of the clothes and spinning through. Well, we're in the spin cycle. We haven't quite rinsed and gotten out of it. So that's why that chaos feels a little bit like that washing machine spin cycle. But the hard work's been done. That's the beauty of it. The hard part of it has been done. And when we get through this, we open up to a world of possibilities of creation, because that's what we're here for, to create and to dream a new world into being.
Amen to that. Oh my goodness, that is profound. You guys are just, I just want to hang out with you all day. But you hear that often. I'm just another fanboy. You can throw me aside. It's all right. I'll always be here.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it inspires a spark of divinity within me that just opens what we refer to as the rhapsody within the remedy that we use within Taoism. And it's just like, as the heart beats to the altar of the unknown, it opens and envelops the starlight, seamless stream of the nectar of the stars as it draws down upon your heart, allowing yourself to reveal the hardness as softness, as pain, as bliss as true self-realization. As you bow to that rose of infinity, you find yourself in this very breath. And that's kind of what you inspired me to evoke right now.
That was beautiful, beautiful and very poetic.
I think it was channeled, actually.
It was dripping with love.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an ancient path that we use, which is poetry. And it goes deep. It embodies the incantation and it codifies it into the material so that we can form magical expressions in this very distorted world and return it to whole.
Mm.
And you, my dear friend Lee, you are never lost for words, other than the fact you're transmitting frequencies that are making me sweat and just fall in love again. Where does this all lie and lead for someone who's seeking in 2025?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Because if there is a battle happening on this planet, and I believe there is conspiracy to make you all afraid. We had a podcast just recently that asked the question, why is it so many who are spiritual seem to be the ones that are targeted with so much fear? The answer is because that's where the light is. So if you represented darker energy and you didn't want that light here and you wanted to continue controlling the planet, where would you concentrate? And the answer is right in the spiritual area to make them afraid. So if you felt that there's conspiracy to make you afraid. And you're right. I believe it is not a conspiracy of people as much as it is of a low consciousness who feels threatened right now. This is what Kryon said would take place, that you would have that feeling that you were in a battle, and that everything you did to improve yourself was often trying to be negated by that which you're hearing on Facebook, and that's what people were saying, and there would be a lot of fear. And that's exactly right. There is. Stay above it. Stay above it. Just because they say it doesn't make it true. Stop watching the news. Get it written, as we've said before, because they're invested in frightening you for another reason. They want you to buy what their sponsors are selling, and the more fearful they can be, the quicker you'll tune in. And that's human nature, has been in the past, and they still count on that. That will change someday, but that's just another episode. Stop fearing that which is around you. Stop fearing the future. When you get out of fear, then things start to clear up. The mountaintop experience is always available, almost every day, at some level, when you stop fearing. If you are in fear when you wake up, I would say that there's not much chance that when you go to sleep, it'll be much different. So be aware of that.
So you guys are constantly crafting and shaping spiritual path for thousands, millions of people around the world. How is it? What can someone do right now from this wisdom teaching we're being shown today? What can they take with them that can not subtly, but dramatically change their life? What would you suggest would be a great starting point?
I always say the same thing. Monika, I'll give you a chance here too, please, because I know you have your ideas. What have you been, different cultures are very different, as you know. What have you been programmed within? And I would say in my nation, in my country, in my culture, I was taught I was born dirty. I was taught that I don't have a chance unless I give away my power, usually to a prophet or an idea or someone else doing something for me. And so I would like to do this first. I would say that all of that is a very old energy idea back when they needed that. It wasn't necessarily something that somebody was trying to do for us, except they did their best. I went through church and really loved those that taught me that. I think they did their best. It's changed now. It really has. Kryon said, you're born magnificent. You're not born dirty. Therefore, you have the seeds within you to be anything that you wish to be, spiritually or not, on this planet right away. You don't have to climb stairs to be worthy. You are worthy immediately. So I guess the answer to your question is what I would tell everybody is self-worth is so important. So be aware that there was probably a lot of programming that went into your life to beat you up. So you didn't feel worthy. You might even work with affirmations, and every morning say to yourself, born magnificent, I'm worried. I'm worthy. I am not worried anymore about this planet or myself. I am worthy. And move from that to what you do next, instead of a feeling of victimization or woe is me or how can it get any worse. And if you, by the way, if you do go to that dark side, I will tell you, that's what you were programmed. It's no wonder that we go there, because that truly has been what we've been told spiritually about the Creator. Born dirty, don't have a chance at all. Think of what that does to your self-worth. So cognize that. Be aware of it. That maybe, just maybe, that was the layer of programming we all received. You can get above that. You really can, because you recognize it isn't true. You are magnificent.
Yes, I 100% agree. And just to add, I think those affirmations are beautiful. I am worthy. I'm known and loved by the Creator. There is nothing I have to do to deserve this love. I have it because I simply exist. I deserve a beautiful life filled with love and abundance. I deserve a beautiful life filled with love and abundance. And being able to say those words and claim them, like paste it upon yourself, that no one or no thing will ever dissuade you from the truth of those statements. And I think embracing things that light you up, that joy, whatever that joy is, find that piece of music that speaks to your soul and lights you up. Become giddy with unfoldings of new discoveries and new adventures for yourself. Find that passion. Know that you are worthy to receive blessings upon blessings upon blessings. And the other statement I love to say is, I am taken care of. I relax in the arms of the Spirit that takes care of my needs on a daily basis.
Wow. You know, both of you had, they're I would refer to them as powerful invocations, crystallizing your own path. They're so powerful. And when you speak them, and I suggest or invite the audience to take those powerful words and breathe into them. And you will find you'll embody that, because I'm experiencing it right now. It's so powerful. It you can't get any better than that. Well, actually, it can, but I mean, let's start there. That's an incredible insight for anyone starting on a path to get that much insight. And it really is. I really highly, suggest for the audience to listen to this wisdom teaching and give yourself an opportunity, as Monika would say, love yourself, as Lee would say, love and unconditionally accept your beauty, your perfection. And it always starts with a suggestion. And then I think that the more you receive incredible wisdom, like the wisdom you've shared with us today, it embodies and becomes a part of your life. But with that, you have to give yourself the approval and the time to make it so. What are your thoughts on that in closing? I know you guys are wrapping this up, but what would you suggest that they start that as a baseline, and how much time do you think they should keep put to this type of stuff?
There's another question that's beautiful. See yourself worthy. See yourself as beautiful. Recalibrate, reframe who you see in the mirror. If you don't like yourself at the beginning, it's to turn that around. What that does is, first of all, physically, it resounds in your cells. There's a coherence of consciousness and cellular structure that starts to make you perhaps less sore in the morning, better sleep, start healing things that are irritating to you, make you feel better in general. That's been proven. Psychologists will tell you about this. So the more you think of yourself, the healthier you are. So, that's where I began, and to see what not only just the results of this are, but seeing yourself beautiful is, again, I could return to it over and over, is the study of self-worth. The better you feel about yourself, the less fearful you're going to be about what happens next.
And I think in terms of how often you do it or when, it's really individual.
That's the other thing, yeah.
Obviously, there's those moments first thing in the morning, even before you get out of bed and you're in that beautiful half dream, half awake state. If you can start waking yourself up with loving phrases to yourself, And then before you go to bed, oh, just loving yourself before those key moments, first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, they really have that powerful way of getting deep into the subconscious. And if there's anyone else, this is a great baseline to start. But if I was just thinking, if there's anyone else who finds that difficult to say, I'm known and loved so deeply by the creator of all things, a really good phrase, because it makes you have fun with it and it makes you kind of question. It's the phrase, what if? Because then that opens, well, what if this is possible? So what if I am worthy? What if I am known and loved by the creator? When we simply throw that spin in front of something that we doubt ourselves, what if I'm loved by the creator? Then your subconscious can start creating, well, here's the what if. This is what happens. This is what unfolds when you know you are. So what if anything I want in life is possible? All of a sudden, poof, these things are possible.
Can I give you a big what if?
Yeah.
What if higher consciousness does indeed broach a higher dimensionality that you are in? If that's the case, what if your time changes? Now, physicists know that dimensionality, especially multidimensionality, often features a timeless situation. Even Einstein talked about the perception of speed changing time. So we realize time is not set. It varies. It varies for several reasons. Therefore, what if in an old energy you meditated and did this for an hour a day, and now you only need a minute? What if this was the kind of changes we're seeing? This also takes the responsibility off of spending a lot of time doing something because the ancients did it, or because you were told nothing happens unless you do. What if it all revolves around you, spending enough time you feel is enough? You'd be surprised.
Wow. I mean, that I think the audience needs to understand that you've just got like a master class in like divine coherence and wisdom teaching from, biologically for Lee and Monika over 36 years. And this information is being concentrated into this very small moment in time. So people should listen to this over and over again and take notes on their own journey using these incredible techniques. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
San Qing, it's always such a joy and pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, it's just like the first time I ever saw your face. or furthermore, I'm just going to close this out with my one day incantation wonder that I like people to remember. You're the best around. Nothing's going to ever take you down. Yeah, well, that's the 80s Kung Fu movie, Karate Kid. But it is an absolute sleeper for people understanding how you can create diversity and adversity and blossom into your own self-worth through something so cheesy as a B-grade martial arts movie from the 80s. But I find wisdom in that even. It's crazy. But thank you, guys. Is there anything you want to share with the audience? I know you've got a bunch of things going on the end of this year.
We'd like to say we travel and we are in various places. If anybody would love to see us live.
Yeah, come and see us live.
Yeah.
And give us a hug and say hello and let us know if you met us through San Qing.
Yeah.
We would love that more than anything.
And if you have anybody who's on their bucket list, truly, and they've saved for this and wants to go to Egypt, there's no better way than going with us, going with Kryon, and that's going to be in February.
Yeah.
So go to cryonmasters.com. It's all there. Our programs, what we do, on our travels, it's all there for you.
Wow. Well, thank you, guys. From my heart to yours, I'm very much in love with you guys and everything that you share. And thank you for being you.
Thank you.
What a joy to be here. Love and blessings to everyone.
And I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys.